They weren't assassins. They weren't masterminds. They were teenagers, obsessed with Paris Hilton, addicted to MySpace, and armed with nothing but Google Maps and gossip blogs. From 2008 to 2009, they robbed the homes of Hollywood's biggest stars again and again, and no one noticed. This is the wild, real-life story of the Bling Ring. It started in Calabasas, not the polished influencer playground it is today, but the early 2000s version. The kind with McMansions, faux Tuscan fountains, and teenage boredom wrapped in Louis Vuitton knockoffs and sidekick phones. There were gated communities, yes, but the fences were more for appearances than actual security. Everyone wanted to be somebody. Nobody wanted to wait. And in this sparkly nowhere of ambition and emptiness, Rachel Lee and Nick Prugo found each other. They weren't criminals. Not yet. They were just kids who knew exactly what they didn't have, and exactly who did. Rachel was stylish, quiet, calculating. She had the kind of dark hair you'd find on a Disney villain, and a fashion sense that made her look richer than she was. Her mum was a North Hollywood salon owner. Her father wasn't around. She moved schools often and never settled long, but she had dreams of working in fashion, or maybe just living like she already was. Nick was soft-spoken, awkward, jittery. He had once been outgoing, a drama kid, but by high school, anxiety had locked him in. He stopped going to class, started staying up all night scrolling MySpace, gossip blogs, and paparazzi feeds. He didn't want to act anymore. He wanted attention, the kind you didn't have to earn with talent, just appearance. They met at Indian Hills High School, a continuation school for students who'd flunked or dropped out of regular programs. It was the school where kids went when other places gave up on them. Nick and Rachel clicked fast. Both were outsiders. Both were obsessed with fashion. Both worshipped the same digital gods: Paris Hilton, Lindsay Lohan, Audrina Patridge, Orlando Bloom, Megan Fox. But most of all, they were obsessed with stuff. They didn't just watch celebrities. They studied them, where they shopped, what they wore, what they posted, where they lived, and slowly that obsession twisted into something more. Rachel floated the idea first, quietly, casually. "Have you ever looked at the celebrity home addresses on Google?" Nick laughed. Then he opened his laptop, and the next thing they knew, they were looking at the front gate of Paris Hilton's house. They didn't expect the gate to be unlocked. They didn't expect the house alarm to be off, but it was, on all counts. The first time Nick Prugo and Rachel Lee broke into Paris Hilton's mansion in the Hollywood Hills, it wasn't some grand heist. It was a test, a dare with no stakes. It started as an idea whispered through a laugh, a joke that turned into directions typed into MapQuest, then into an address on a GPS, then into two teenagers walking under a security camera that wasn't even plugged in. It was October 2008. Paris was out of town. Rachel had checked the blogs. TMZ had posted a photo of her in Miami just hours before. They parked a few blocks away and walked through the darkness like they belonged there. Rachel wore black. Nick wore panic. He was sweating. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. "Let's just see if the door's locked," she said. It wasn't. They stepped into a marble foyer bathed in silence. The kind of silence that only exists in houses no one cleans themselves. Everywhere they looked, chandeliers, velvet, mirrored walls, a giant canvas with Paris's own face painted on it. Wealth screamed in their faces, and it was all just sitting there. No security, no staff, no barking dogs, not even a blinking red light on the alarm panel. Rachel turned to Nick and smiled, like they'd been invited. They didn't take much that first time. A few designer sunglasses, some lingerie, a dress, cash, always cash. They left before the sun rose, adrenaline crackling in their bones. Nick didn't sleep that night. He kept replaying it. The walk through her closet, the smell of perfume, still lingering on silk, The insane reality that he had just been inside Paris Hilton's house and she hadn't even noticed, and she wouldn't. Not for months. So they went back. Again. And again. Over the next few weeks, Nick and Rachel hit Paris's home at least 5 times. They started thinking of it as shopping. They'd go through her closet, try on her clothes, take what they liked. They found $2,000 in cash once, stuffed inside a Birkin. They took a bottle of Grey Goose from her minibar. Rachel left. A small gold ring on the floor by accident. They thought they'd be caught, but Paris never reported it. Maybe she didn't even notice. She had so much. They started expanding. They looked up other celebrities the same way, cross-checking paparazzi photos with Google Maps, studying red carpet interviews for hints about vacations, checking MySpace, and Facebook posts to see who was out of town. It was digital stalking as criminal research. Their next target, Audrina Patridge. Audrina Patridge was known for being the laid-back brunette on the hills, a reality show that made viewers feel like they were watching fame form in real time, glossy, shallow and sunlit. She posted photos constantly, parties, trips, outfits. She documented her life like she was paid by the pixel. That made her easy to track. It was February 22nd, 2009, the night of the Oscars. Rachel and Nick knew Audrina was attending an after-party because she'd posted about it earlier. Red carpet photos confirmed she was nowhere near home. So they drove from Calabasas to the Hollywood Hills and parked a few streets down. Nick wore gloves this time. Rachel wore a hoodie and carried an oversized bag she referred to as her tote of opportunity. They found a way in through a side door. Inside, the apartment smelled like coconut lotion and perfume. Shoes were neatly arranged by the door. Louboutins, Jimmy Choos, a row of designer heels that looked barely worn. In the bedroom, Rachel's breath caught. She turned to Nick and whispered, "Jackpot." There were drawers overflowing with jewelry, designer bags lined up like showroom pieces. They took earrings, a Rolex, custom sunglasses, clothing, underwear. Nick filmed it on his phone like a behind-the-scenes tour. They stayed for nearly 45 minutes, like it was their place. Audrina would later release the security footage herself, furious. "I felt so violated," she told reporters. "It wasn't even just about the stuff. It was knowing someone walked around my house like they owned it." But that was exactly how Rachel and Nick were starting to feel. They were emboldened, delusional, and they weren't alone anymore. Enter Alexis Nyers. Beautiful, chaotic, and born for the spotlight. A self-styled actress-model-dancer with a reality show pilot already filming. She lived in a house fueled by denial, Adderall, and mirrors. Her mother, Andrea Arlington, a former Playboy playmate, turned spiritual healer, believed in manifesting fame. Her little sister Tess was already tagging along with celebutantes and wannabes. Alexis met Rachel through mutual friends. She wanted in on the life, the parties, the stolen luxury. So did Diana Tamayo, a classmate at Indian Hills, and Courtney Ames, a loud, unpredictable hanger-on who bragged about knowing people from the hills. Rachel and Nick were the architects, but now they had a crew, and their next job would be the biggest yet. Orlando Bloom's house. He was in New York filming. Paparazzi had spotted him days before. They scoped the house twice, a lush property in the Hollywood Hills, behind a thick gate, ivy-covered and private. They climbed the fence. Diana served as lookout. Rachel and Nick slipped inside. This time they came with duffel bags. Inside Bloom's home was Miranda Kerr's lingerie, Rolex watches, Louis Vuitton luggage, paintings, clothes. They took nearly $500,000 worth of luxury items. The biggest haul yet. Some of it they wore to parties. Some they sold to friends. Most of it they kept. Because at this point it wasn't about money, it was about status. They were living the celebrity life, wearing their clothes, sleeping in their beds, dancing in their living rooms. The lines had blurred. They weren't just robbing stars, they were becoming them in their own minds. Paparazzi culture had taught them that attention was value. Now they had a closet full of it, but the walls were closing in. By the summer of 2009, the crew wasn't just a group of bored kids anymore. They were a full-blown operation. Rachel Lee was the queen bee, cold, quiet, in control. Nick Prugo was her shadow, nervous, addicted to adrenaline, trying to keep up. Alexis Nyers, Courtney Ames, Diana Tamayo, and Roy Lopez Jr. floated in and out, each drawn by the sparkle, the access, the taste of what it meant to be famous adjacent. Their targets were getting riskier. After Audrina and Orlando, they went after Rachel Bilson 4 times. They took nearly $130,000 in fashion pieces and accessories from her closet alone. Then Megan Fox and Brian Austin Green. Their security system was down. Inside were guns, watches, designer clothes, and bags stuffed with cash. It was too easy. Like the city didn't believe crime could happen if the people committing it were beautiful and young. The group stored the stolen goods in duffels, closets, suitcases, and even buried some behind Rachel's house. They started mixing real items with fakes, wearing Louboutins that belonged to Paris Hilton while eating fast food in friends' basements. They flaunted stolen Chanel in MySpace selfies. Some of the girls even wore the pieces on camera. Alexis Nyers was now actively filming a reality show pilot called Pretty Wild for E! It was insane, and it was unraveling. Lindsay Lohan was the last big job. They'd wanted her house for months, but it was hard to time. She was erratic, traveling constantly, but sometimes appearing at 2 a.m. clubs unannounced. In August 2009, they finally tracked her via paparazzi photos and confirmed she was in New York. They hit her home in the early morning hours. This time, something felt off. The alarm chirped. The gate had a new lock. Rachel panicked and rushed. The job. They stole a small fortune in jewelry, bracelets, necklaces, a gold Rolex. But in their rush, they triggered a silent alarm. What they didn't know was that Lindsay's house had new surveillance cameras, better than any they'd dealt with before. Days later, LAPD released a still image to the public, a grainy shot of a figure in a hoodie with long dark hair. Caught. In the act, Rachel froze when she saw it. So did Nick. They knew it was her, but the others didn't, and the crew started to crack. Nick broke first. He had always been the most anxious, the one who second-guessed. When police brought him in for questioning, they didn't have much, just the footage, some vague timelines. But Nick couldn't take it. He unraveled within hours. He told them everything. Paris Hilton, Audrina, Orlando, Rachel, Diana, Alexis. The names spilled out like he'd been waiting for someone to ask. The detectives couldn't believe it. A group of teenagers had successfully robbed some of the biggest names in Hollywood for months, and no one noticed. Search warrants followed. LAPD raided homes, retrieved stolen goods, and started matching photos, shoe prints, and jewelry. Rachel's bedroom. They found Lindsay's stolen necklace and photos of her wearing Paris Hilton's sunglasses. Alexis Nyers was arrested while cameras rolled for Pretty Wild. That moment became infamous. In the now viral scene, Alexis sobbed, barefoot on her couch while her mom screamed at producers. "Nancy Joe, this is Alexis Nyers calling," she said through sobs, in a voicemail that would become a meme. But behind the tabloid mess was real fear, real charges, real time. And for once, the cameras weren't there to make them famous. They were there to bury them. The headlines read like a Hollywood script. The Bling Ring, teens who robbed the rich and famous. Hollywood's most glamorous burglars. From MySpace to mugshots. The media couldn't get enough. Paparazzi trailed suspects to court. TMZ broke updates daily. Tabloids feasted on the irony. Kids who had once stalked celebrities were now being chased by cameras. It was the perfect scandal for a fame-hungry decade. Paris Hilton, ever the accidental centerpiece, suddenly became the victim everyone wanted to hear from. When LAPD showed her the inventory of items stolen from her, designer dresses, jewelry, underwear, drugs, and 2 million in valuables, she barely flinched. "They were like little fans," she said. "It's creepy but kind of flattering." She let Vanity Fair interviewers tour the closet they had robbed. Lindsay Lohan was less forgiving. She threatened legal action against the group and refused to appear in person, sending a rep to court. "They're not fans," she said. "They're criminals." And the courtroom, it was chaos. Rachel Lee, the mastermind, tried to stay invisible. She refused interviews, didn't speak publicly. She didn't want to be famous anymore. She just wanted it to go away. Her lawyers painted her as misguided, not malicious, a smart girl who got in too deep. But prosecutors had evidence, surveillance, stolen goods. Nick's confession. She eventually pled no contest and was sentenced to 4 years in prison, though she served only 16 months. Nick Prugo, the first to confess, cooperated fully. He walked the media tightrope, remorseful in court, almost gleeful in interviews. "I didn't feel bad at first," he told ABC. "It felt like they had so much, they wouldn't miss it." He was sentenced to 2 years, served just over 1. Alexis Nyers, already famous for her pretty wild breakdown, pled no contest to burglarizing Orlando Bloom's home. The irony? She was wearing a stolen pair of his girlfriend Miranda Kerr's earrings in the mugshot. Sentenced to 180 days in county jail, she served 30 days. She claimed she didn't know what Rachel had planned. "I thought we were going to a party," she told Nancy Jo Sales in Vanity Fair. "Then I woke up and I was a criminal." The infamous voicemail she left for the reporter, the one that begins, "Nancy Jo, this is Alexis Nyers calling," became the most quoted moment of the entire case. Not the testimony, not the sentencing, a voicemail, because that's how blurred the line between crime and content had become. Diana Tamayo, Courtney Ames, and Roy Lopez Jr. all faced lesser charges. Diana, a high school valedictorian and undocumented immigrant, struck a plea deal to avoid deportation. Courtney was sentenced to probation. Roy, the getaway driver and occasional fence, served probation as well. None of them served long time, because they were young, because they cooperated, because it was just burglary. Never mind the fact that they had invaded lives, violated privacy, and glamorized it like a fashion shoot. After the dust settled, the Bling Ring became a case study in what happens when celebrity, worship, social media, and criminal boredom collide. Sofia Coppola directed a film in 2013, The Bling Ring, starring Emma Watson as a thinly veiled Alexis. The movie was dreamy, detached, and disturbingly shallow, just like the crew. Some of the real-life members hated it. Others loved the attention. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Where are they now? Rachel Lee faded into privacy. She got her cosmetology license, studied criminal psychology, and has spoken only once to say she wants to help troubled youth avoid the path she took. Nick Prugo later came out as gay, moved to Los Angeles again, and gave sporadic interviews. Still fascinated by fame, still wrestling with regret, Alexis Nyers became a recovery advocate and podcaster. She now goes by Alexis Haynes and speaks openly about her past addiction, her childhood trauma, and how the Bling Ring saved her. By forcing her to hit rock bottom early, the Bling Ring didn't kill anyone, didn't hurt anyone physically, but it revealed something hollow at the center of a culture, that we raise children on fame, but don't teach them to earn it, that we glorify people for their closets, not their character, that you can live in someone's house, wear their clothes, sleep in their bed, and still not feel like you exist. The most expensive things they stole were never the watches or handbags. They stole identities, and in the end, they didn't know who they were without. Them.